You like what you hear? Tell a friend or a family member about the conversations that are happening live on The Remedy. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with somebody that you know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to The Remedy. I'm your host, Pastor D. I'm delighted to be with you here on this beautiful Saturday. Like many of you, I was astonished, flabbergasted, and quietly disturbed by the images that we all witness this week as we watch our brothers and sisters, Haitian migrants, being beaten by Border Patrol as they try to cross the border. I couldn't help but to go back into, and forgive me if this might offend some of you, but I couldn't help to go back to the age of slavery. I couldn't help to ask myself, what are we doing wrong as a people? Because as time as you watch this, you can't help but to ask. I mean, we're supposed to be human beings, and we're supposed to get better and better and better as we get older and older as a people. Yet those images, like I said before, left me breathless. Not only that, I couldn't help but to ask, how is it that we can open our arms to one group of people and allow them to come here and provide all the everything that they need because it's the right thing to do, but then we can turn around and do the complete opposite to another group of people. Latin American tried to cross the border, we put them in cages. Canadians and Afghans tried to come here, but they get a different treatment. Haitians tried to come here, they get a different treatment. What are we doing wrong as a people? I don't have the answer. I'm hoping that those of you who are watching the show today might provide your own input as to what's happening here in the US. As always, I'm not alone today. I am here with Pat and our guest this morning, Tom Griffin. But without any further ado, we're going to get started right here on The Remedy. Once again, what's going on, everyone? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to The Remedy. Pat, how you doing on your heck of the world?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
I was hoping you would give us a little smile this morning, but I can understand if you choose not to. Yeah, this again,
Um,
I try to keep it light. I try to have a smile because at the end of the day, that's the thing about us and about our people. We are a resilient bunch. And you know what? My mother used to say, the further the we get pushed down, the higher we're supposed to bounce up. And I'll always look at this as no matter what's going on in this world, there are people who are doing good. No matter what's going on in this world, there are people who are offended about what they are seeing. So not everybody can be put into the same boat. And that gives me hope when I see the kind of things that we just witnessed this week on the TV screen.
I have to say, for me, I'm sad. I'm definitely heartbroken. I'm emotional, but I'm not surprised.
Huh.
I think that these things have been happening for a long time. It just, fortunately for us now, they're caught on camera. And honestly, it's not going to be the last time.
Mhm.
It's not going to be the last time. So yes, I'm sad. I was born in Haiti. I'm not in Haiti now, but Haiti is my own homeland. Even if they weren't Haitians, I would still feel the way that I'm feeling now. But most importantly for me, I just really feel like I have to get a lessons learned from this because it's not going to be the last time, and it wasn't the first time. So, very sad because we are in 2021.
Yeah, it is. Um, I want to take a moment to introduce to our Facebook family those who are watching us, and perhaps you are watching us for the very first time. You are watching The Remedy, and with us today we have Tom Griffin, who is an immigration lawyer. Tom, I want to take a moment to welcome you to our show.
Thank you.
And of course, I want to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. For those of you who don't know, Tom might be more Haitians than Pat and I put together here on the show.
Sure.
All
Well, I
right.
tell you, he's been to Haiti.
Mhm.
He was the last one to be to Haiti than us. So most
Most recent.
definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm originally from Boston, so grew up there, and then after college and law school, I became an immigration lawyer about 20 years ago, and that coincided with beginning to live in Philadelphia. So I've been in Philadelphia for about 20 years, a little short of 20 years, and doing immigration law. But beginning at the very beginning of my career, in fact, even dating back to law school, I started having a real interest in Haiti and what was going on in Haiti. So it was, at the time, I think it was about 1994, 95. And, Haiti was in the news for Americans in terms of there was a coup d'etat against Aristide in 1991. And then there was that time when he was gone and in exile, and that coincided with a lot with, I guess what preceded that was the time that when Haitians were blamed for AIDS, for
Yeah,
bringing AIDS
yeah,
to the world.
yeah.
It
I
was,
remember those days.
oh, I mean, it's so sickening if you follow all this stuff. But I think first they said it was monkeys, if you remember, from
Yeah,
Africa, and
yeah,
then of course it was like the next thing, right? In America's view, must be Haitians,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they were getting interdicted in the water, trying to get out of there, and they weren't getting out of there because of AIDS. They were getting out of there because of the violence that had happened with the fall of a baby doc.
Hmm.
And then Clinton, it was Clinton's policy. I don't know why Clinton has this view, or people view Clinton as like this great Haiti lover. He's done horrible things in Haiti,
Yeah.
Hillary too. But locking them up on Guantanamo, I think that's the first time Guantanamo was ever used as a prison. And now it's terrorists are there or whatever, so-called terrorists. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's when I sort of got like Haiti for the first time in my life, became an issue, a thing that I cared about. And I had a very good friend from high school who post 1991 coup against Aristide was recruited to open a human rights law office in Port-au-Prince. So throughout my years of law school, which were I think 95 to 99 or so, we stayed in constant contact while he was dealing with a country that was under the pressure of FRAP. I don't know if you guys know that.
Hmm.
The organization, basically sort of the new sort of the renewed Tonton Macoutes that with Raul Cedras were the sort of appointed president, were running wild and killing people. You may have heard of the name Toto Constant. He was a really notorious figure that was leading one of the leaders of the FRAP group. Anyways, so I was getting reports as early as the mid 90s as to what was going on down there, because I had a friend that was trying to fix it. His job was to train judges and lawyers and police officers to find these people and bring them to trial. So I was very hooked up right then. And then it was in 2000, I had my first trip, which was sort of a church trip, and just to sort of get a sense of the country. So a lot of just exploring Port-au-Prince, and then we went out to the Southwest. So we were in a place called not Guadeloupe, Fond de Blanc. So and then I just got exposed to the countryside, which is really, I think, in my mind, it's really what Haitians are, right? They are an agricultural people, an agrarian people that love the land and know the land. It is so I was right there with them, but for the first time, I had actually seen hunger to the way that we'd seen only on posters for charities. But I was in Fond de Blanc. This group had built a hospital, very good hospital, with American donations. And one day I was just volunteering at the hospital, and an older lady came down with a donkey from the mountains with a boy laying across the back of the donkey. And she had made a long trip over the mountains to get there. And he was 10 years old. And I think he weighed about maybe 30 pounds or something. And he was brought to the hospital basically to die. His systems had shut down so much that we couldn't feed him. His body would reject the food. He was basically just there to die. And I just sat next to his bed. And I had a little boy around his age at the time, and I just couldn't believe it. 500 or whatever miles we are from Miami, and there's a boy starving to death. And I learned that sometimes moms in the Haitian countryside have to pick which kid's going to eat, which kid's going to survive. And that just blew me away. And from that day on, in 2000, I just had Haiti's been a big part of my heart, my work, the things that I try to do and spread the word and try to fix in whatever way a guy like me could ever do it.
Yeah.
The next really big event for me in Haiti, after going back, learning the language as best I could. Also in late 2000, I went back the same year to watch the trial of all these people, and the trial was held up in Gonaïves, where there had been a massacre called the Roboteau massacre while Aristide was gone. Gonaïves, a very democratic, upstart town historically in Haiti, had basically, there was an uprising against the fake government, and so there was a massacre that occurred there, and so the trial was about that massacre, and I think there were about 30 guys, 30 basically Haitian terrorists that were on trial. When I watched that trial, it was turned into a movie called Poté Sanger. So people can find that movie. So then I started to learn the language. Aristide was elected in 2000, I believe. He had his second term. He was brought back. Anyways, he had his second term. And in 2004, he was ousted again. And at that point, because I had a lot of friends down there, I knew what was happening on the ground. I knew about the massacres. I knew about the murders. But I kept reading the papers and listening to U.S. news, and nothing was being reported on the tragedies in Haiti, the political violence, and always against the poor people, and always in the worst neighborhoods, Cité Soleil, La Saline, Bel Air. So I just went down. I literally borrowed somebody's camera, took a notebook, and said, "There's no reporting down here. I'm going to report." So I spent 10 days down there, visiting the neighborhoods, photographing the neighborhoods, going into the hospital, seeing the bullet wounds and patients with bullet wounds, going into the prisons, and going into the morgue. I actually snuck into the morgue to see what kind of bodies were in there, and they were all young men. So that became a big deal. The report got published by the University of Miami Center for the Study of Human Rights. I just got more deeply embedded with the political and human rights issues in Haiti. Subsequently, a couple more reports, and then there was the quake in 2010. By that time, I was teaching a human rights course. I brought some members of my class, some of my students down there, and we did reports on the IDP camps. That's the internally displaced people that were living in various places in and around Port-au-Prince under tarps and whatever makeshift shelters, just to expose and let the world know what was going on. So it's been that. In 2006 or 7, I went into City Soleil because I knew it was such a tough spot. And we had a meeting, a doctor and I, a friend of mine, we said, we want to build something to help down here. And we said, an orphanage, a school, a health clinic, and we let the community choose. And they said they wanted a health clinic. So we built a health clinic. And then every other month I would travel down there to check on the clinic, to interview doctors, and make sure we had a full Haitian staff, paid them well. Got their supplies and medicine. So we became part of a big part of City Soleil in a place called Bois Neuf. So very, very zone chaud in City Soleil. So that's it, and now I go down. Unfortunately, the reason I go down, I love going down, but one of my toughest cases I've ever had as an immigration lawyer, this wonderful woman named Mimi that got deported. We did great on her case. We won all the way up the chain until the final day when the Third Circuit Court of Appeals overturned our victory. And so she got deported. And so I go and see her a lot. And she's very active in terms of helping the community. She's right now in Okai, where the last earthquake hit. And giving out supplies, sending me videos and camera and photos of what she's doing with the people down there. So anyways, I'm pretty connected, as connected as I can be. I wish I was there more often and could spend longer time, but I'm sort of running my law firm too. So I think
I'm listening to you. It's amazing about all the things that you have been able to accomplish in that little country. One thing I can sense just from listening to you, it's always like that anyway, because I feel like whenever we feel the calling to go out and help, and wanted to go and make a difference in other people's lives, we often find out that they make a difference in our lives as well. I can feel the humility in your voice, and I can feel the joy as well, and to be able to do as much as you can possibly do and see the need of the people firsthand. It does something to you as a human being. And I think that's what one of the things that I want to talk about as well today. It's the images that I watched this past week. It's not really just thinking about Haitian. It's not necessarily just, that's what I want to put the focus on. Those are human beings, just like everyone else. And we all deserve to be treated with love, with respect, with dignity. And I always say this: people don't leave their homes because things are good. People leave their homes with the hope of finding something better. But to leave your home and then to come to a country that is known, that is built by immigrants, and be treated in such a way, it's really overwhelming for me, to think about this. Tom, I want to ask you, as you reflect on some of those images, what were some of your first reaction as you watched this develop this past week?
Well, I mean, I think as Patty referred to, right, it seems to be always something, and with Haiti, and what the outsiders are doing to Haiti, and you can't. It's almost beyond the imagination that something else could happen. I mean, the 2004 coup was bad, and was bad enough. There was slaughter in the streets. I have, you can get my report. Maybe I could refer to. I mean, I have photographs of just people cut up and the bodies in the morning. Like, what the hell? I just can't believe it. And then then MINUSTA, the UN goes down there. It was a 13-year occupation, and there was no peace agreement. And then they brought cholera. Like, oh my God! So you have an occupied country, the only occupied country in the world that didn't have a peace agreement, and the whole planet is on this little tiny island. It's like full of innocent people, right? 99% of people down there are innocent and hungry. And so they bring cholera, and then there's the sex abuse, right? Then the hurricanes, and just like, when is this going to end? And and then we had the earthquake first. I'm getting mixed up, and then the assassination. So
we had the assassination.
The assassination, the earthquake,
and
the hurricane.
and then immediately after that, the hurricane.
And it's like, when is it going to stop? And you go, is there a God? And like, why does this happen to the most innocent? And then boom, right? Just when things couldn't be worse. There's no government in Haiti, there's definitely no government chosen by the people in Haiti. Whatever's going on, it's government by gangs right now, and the elites that control them and feed them and give them their bullets. That's something that people should know about. All of a sudden you see these barefoot people crossing the river with babies on their shoulders, getting, attacked on the other side. And it's my country. I mean, it's horrific. It's like, when is it going to stop? And why is it always Haitians? And the view, I think, among progressives is like Haitians really continue to pay the price for setting themselves free 217 years ago. And there's so much racism in it. And really sadly, I think Haitians know this, but these Haitians didn't it's impossible to be poor as people are in Haiti and get off that island. And they didn't all of a sudden fly to Texas. These are people that the vast majority, like probably 90% or more, that were at the border in the last week, did not come directly from Haiti. They had been invited for various reasons to South American countries after the 2010 earthquake. So a lot of them speak Spanish. And they certainly haven't been in Haiti for a long time, and for a real long time. And such a long trip. And I've met so many as clients that, that did, most of it was walking. Imagine walking from Brazil to the United States. Just like a year of walking, and through jungles and everything, and 12 countries, and it's Haitians that are getting treated like that, not the Mexicans, not the El Salvadorans, not the Hondurans. It's just so much racism. But a very interesting thing, though, someone just a columnist in the Boston Globe yesterday published an article that for the first time talked about the racism in South America. So, we got our own problems we'll be dealing with forever. But South America does too. And it was great that someone spoke up about other brown people. Progressives think, oh, they're brown people and, they're wonderful and poor. Well, those brown people kick the hell out of black people. And if you think America's got problems, Brazil, Ecuador, Chile are 100 years behind, if not 200, in race relations. And color and shades of color are still a big thing. So Haitians couldn't take it down there. It was disgusting. So, brown on black discrimination is just horrendous. You guys, probably the closest thing most Haitians can relate to is the Dominican Republic and Haiti, right? I mean, it's right there on the same island, and it's shades of brown. The same exact history. But the colonization and all that, and yet all of a sudden there's a hierarchy of color. So it happens to Haiti. Like, what's going to happen next? It's horrific.
I have a few questions for you, Tom. But I always say it's one thing being Black in America, and it's another thing being Haitians around the world. Being Haitian around the world is something else. It's like first you Black, then you Haitian. So if you can imagine the discrimination that goes on when you're Black. You have the Black discrimination, and then you have another layer being Haitian around the world, and not just in one country. So it's totally, for me, it's just, it's disgusting. That's where I'm at. It's disgusting, and I'm also very upset at the Haitian leaders in Haiti, because at the end of the day, we have something called Lakai, c'est Lakai, meaning home is home. Every time I go to Haiti, I don't even want to come back, because you just, it's beautiful. But of course, I go as a tourist. It's
Right.
different. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that to say there's so many of us that would want to do so many things with the beautiful country that we have. But unfortunately, the way that Haiti is, of course, people are going to want to walk away or find a place to go that they can feed their family. But this issue will never stop until our leaders decide to turn Haiti into a country where people can actually live. But before we go into that, I have a few questions that I wanted to ask. If you can explain, recently it was told that the Department of Justice actually started an investigation around this. I also, I think they said that they suspended the whole horseback. So what are people like yourself, attorneys, how we're going to find out later on what happened, and then how do we hold people accountable? Because as you know, just like the earthquake of Haiti, it happened last month, and when it first happened, everybody was trying to help and doing all these things. And we're not saying that people are no longer helping, but people then move on. So what happened a month from now when people are moving on, everybody's moving on, how do we make sure that we still hold the people liable, so that things like that stop being stop perpetuating all the time? We forget, we move on, and then 2 to 3 months later you hear another group of people. So that's the reason why I'm saying I don't think this is going to be the last time we hear something like that. How do we make sure? What do we have? What leverage do we have?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's unfortunately, of course, on the backs of Haitians that we learn how bad America could be. It's like Haitians are like the rats that we do experiments on, right? How to do coups, right? How to do sanctions. It's just, let's try it on the Haitians, and then we can work it on others. So let's try this horseback stuff. And lawyers are, the immigration lawyers are just a really powerful bunch, a passionate bunch. And we're always down, not me, but there's always groups of us down at the border, especially during the Trump years or since the Trump years, because the clog in the movement, it's all been stuck down there. People been getting pushed back under the MPP program, forced to live in these camps, these awful camps. But it's getting, the journalists are doing a pretty good job. I mean, catching that picture of the man on the officer on horseback robbing the Haitian man by the shirt. It's getting out there, and I think America is, getting outraged. In terms of what lawyers can do, I mean, we're about the law and the Constitution, and if they can find a way to show that what they did broke the law, they'll be sued and held accountable. In the middle of the week, the U.S. In the House of Representatives, the chair of the Homeland Security Committee and the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee wrote a letter to Anthony Blinken, the head of the State Department, and to Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, demanding an account of everything that happened in the border, telling them to stop the expulsions, and to get an account of every single person, like the names, who are they, and where did they live, where did they last live before they came to the Del Rio camp. So they're getting held accountable by the U.S. House of Representatives. So I think word's out there, although at the same time, there's been 6 expulsion flights already today. So on Saturday, there have been 6 before we even got on the air. So there have been 28 total since last Sunday. And there were, I think, 6 or 7 flights yesterday. So despite the letters getting sent from Congress telling the State Department and Homeland Security to stop it, they keep doing it. So how the government works in terms of that level and who can tell who what to do, it's just horrendous. I mean, I think another big thing is no matter how much this breaks our hearts to see this and how it outrages us in terms of human rights, Biden is under. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy that enjoys seeing this or wants this to happen. So at the same time, I think he could stop it, of course. But there's massive there's massive pressure against him because I think 50% of the country, at least, are Trump people. That's been shown in the elections, recently, and polls and Fox News. There's a lot of people that like seeing what's happening at the border happening, and they like seeing those flights leave to Haiti. And they have no understanding of who the people are and where they come from. It's just typical sort of, real right-wing stuff that you don't know what you don't know the people. You just think about yourself, and they no care for who the stories are. So you wipe the humanity away of what we see as victims, and they see them as terrorists, or animals, or people who are carrying COVID. But they don't know. They don't see the story. I think that's journalists. That's the job of journalists, to bring those stories to life. And they're doing okay.
Yeah.
I have another.
Tom,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pat. I just wanted to know if you could perhaps bring some clarification into some terminology that I think sometimes we often use, but not really sure what they truly mean. And so, since we are privileged to have an immigration lawyer here with us today, I think it's only fair to bring those into the light. When we use terms like refugee or asylee and migrant, sometimes we often use them interchangeably, right?
Yeah.
So in the light of this crisis that took place at the border of Del Rio, Texas, how can we bring some clarification? How can we clarify these terms? When we say someone is an asylum seeker, what does that really mean? When we say someone is a refugee, what does that really mean?
Okay.
Which group can be deported right back to where they come from without any kind of, no matter what we do? Obviously, you just mentioned it. No matter how many, what we tried to do this week, all of them got deported right back. So can you please explain or give some clarification
and
to this?
to piggyback to what Mandy's saying, Tom, because that actually was going to be my next question, because talking about Mayorkas, I know reading or watching him this week, he said that the state actually, or the department, had actually assessed all of the situation in Haiti first before they actually send the people back. So to me, I also want to know what constitutes asylum, because if they assessed the situation and they felt it was okay, and I'm quoting what he actually said, they felt it was okay to send the people back. So can you please enlighten us as to what fits asylum? And then further back, how is the plight of the Haitian refugees different than the plight of the Afghan that came in the US? So if you can perhaps enlighten us on this.
I'll try. One thing I wanted to say to your folks out there who are watching, listening, is, before we get into the real immigration stuff, is please apply for TPS. I don't want everybody. I mean, in a way, it's a huge gift. It's a huge gift to Haitians, as well as to other people, other countries that have TPS right now. But don't think, if you have a question of whether you qualify, my phone number is, I think my email is on the scroll at the bottom. I can tell you. But really, all you have to prove right now, it's pretty simple, is that you were physically in the country, or you had a residence in the country. You didn't have to physically be here as late as July 29th of this year, so a month ago, and or whatever, 2 months ago. And then you have to have been physically present. You have to show that your body was in the United States by August 3rd. So just apply. It gives you a work permit. It gives you a permission to travel. That leads to a driver's license. So for all intents and purposes, it's almost, it's temporary, maybe. The name is temporary, but it gives you almost all the benefits of being a lawful permanent resident in terms of day-to-day life, and being able to survive, take care of your family, and as I said, even travel, and you're considered documented. And for Haitians, it's been going on since 2011, and they just renewed it. So now there's a new class. So you can actually, as I said, you could be here as late as August 3rd, 2021 and still qualify. So, and then for El Salvadorans and Hondurans, it's been going on for 30 years or more. So it seems temporary, but, and hopefully it may be turned into something permanent, especially under the Biden administration. So please apply. The only things, even if you have a deportation order, I know a lot of folks out there are afraid to admit that they're in the country after being ordered deported, but people with deportation orders qualify. Now going into what
if you've already left the country? Like, for instance,
you have
are already in Haiti, I guess.
No. So one big thing with TPS is it's what they'll always say is it's not a magnet, and that can cause problems. But basically, it's not. We have a program. We have a program, and we're going to blanket the people that are here so they don't have to go back. So they don't want it to be. They don't want it to pull people out of Haiti. That's why they have this. Always have a date by which you have to be in the United States. So if you weren't here by August 3rd, 2021, you're not going. If you can't prove that you were, then you can't get it. So it's not something that pulls people out of Haiti. There's that. So what's really interesting about TPS is one of the elements of granting TPS to citizens of a certain country is an examination of the conditions in that country that say it's untenable and unfair to that the conditions in the country are so bad that they can't handle an influx of people. So it's sort of when the United States grants a country TPS, it's a foreign affairs international relation diplomacy kind of thing that says we're going to back off you guys. You guys need to repair your place and get things in order, and we're not going to add to that mix by deporting people, and then you have to deal with people that have no money, no jobs, no house. So we'll keep them here. You fix up. So TPS, which was just granted 2 months ago, was a blanket decision by our government to say Haiti can't handle people going back there. In fact, even if you've been ordered deported, like the bottom of the barrel of immigrants, illegal immigrants who've been ordered deported, we're not sending you back. That's how bad your country's conditions are.
But are there financial responsibilities? Because as you know, a lot of the time, these people, unfortunately, they don't have the financial means. Or their financial responsibility for people that have been granted TPS to seek attorneys, or the attorneys doing jobs pro bono?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so just to finish my thought was that, and then you've got on top of a declaration by the United States that we know you can't handle one more person. And then starting last Sunday, 10,000 people are getting deported, 6 or 7 flights a day. It's just so contrary. It's internally inconsistent by our government. And so it's a very political decision. It's a very racist decision that makes no sense. It makes no sense to give TPS at the same time send people back to a TPS country. Mm-hmm. So there's that. So Patty, you said, I'm sorry. What was your
in terms of the financial responsibility, say for instance, somebody is, they were here July 28th, so they can apply for TPS. But actually, I have a friend that happened to. She came in on a visa or something. Something happened, and then the flood happened. Haiti was real bad, so then now she's here. So she's going to try to apply for TPS. But the thing is, she's not working. So how does attorneys doing it pro bono? How is that person supposed to financially be able? And she has a baby. How is she supposed to financially be able to apply for TPS?
Yeah, well,
we know immigration things cost a lot of money.
They do cost a lot of money. I should know this, but I'm not sure. A lot of the benefits that you can apply for have fee waivers, and so that you don't have to pay the government fee. So I believe that there is a fee waiver for the Haitian TPS, but it's another form to fill out. Lots of attorneys are doing pro bono work because we know the conditions these people are in and living under and have families to support. And then there's organizations out there, nonprofits, that are really doing good work in Philadelphia area that will do it. It's just part of their nonprofit services is to do this for either no fee or low fee, like a sliding scale. So the other thing is, people can do it themselves if they can read the application, and so there's ways to get it, but no one should not do it. And if someone, you can, my name and number and contact information is down there. And if I'm overloaded and can't take more free cases, I can point you to someone that can help. But to overlook or ignore this basically gift that's from the United States for Haitians would be terrible. It leads to so many things. It'll lead to a green card. You can get married and turn it into a green card. Anything could happen. Some people can get a job and it'll even turn it into a green card. So it's very technical, but just get it. It's pretty easy, and boom, you go from being an illegal alien, quote unquote, to a documented, lawfully person with a driver's license, ability to travel, ability to work. So, and a government issued ID. So it's definitely worth. The only real big disqualifiers are if you have a felony offense, a felony conviction. It doesn't matter if you've been arrested, you have to have been convicted. And then the definition of a felony is kind of quirky. So you could talk to a lawyer like me about that. Or if you had 2 misdemeanors. And I can tell you, of all the clients I've seen from all the countries in the world over the last 20 years, people from Haiti do not have criminal records to any extent that they're just, there's just such
we're afraid.
Bunch of citizens.
People from Haiti, we're afraid.
They're just such hardworking, good people, and I don't mean to be stereotypical or generalized, but man, this Haitians stand out in that way to me, and so I'm not too worried that most people probably can qualify. If Mondi, if you want to talk about asylum, the difference between a refugee and an asylee is the definition is exactly the same, except for where your body is at the time of the designation of you as an asylee or a refugee. So it's a person who has fear of return to their country, their last country of residence, and what we call it persecution, fear of persecution. And here's the technical part. Okay, it's a person who fears persecution in their home country that is committed by the government or a group the government cannot or will not control. And then it gets a little more complicated, and that the persecution comes on account of your nationality, your race, your religion, your membership in a particular social group, or your political opinion. So we call it the 5 bases. So, and here's how we get, here's how our government sort of gets the victory and denies the case. And this is very true for people from the Northern Triangle that we've been seeing over the last decade, which is El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, and of course Haiti, is there's so many people that can't articulate and meet the elements. So that the persecution is by the government or a group the government cannot and will not control, and on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group or political opinion. They come here because they're hungry. They come here because they're scared of crime and extortion, and just the general violent, oppression that comes along with poverty and a lack of government, a lack of democratic government and democratic institutions. And that a lot of that is the United States' fault, of course, but we could get into on another show. But why aren't these people happy in their country? Why isn't there real democracy where the elected officials really care about the masses? But that's sort of a common denominator. So you have people that are just running here to eat, running here to go to school, running here to get medical care, and running here so they don't get killed. So it's very hard to meet the standard for refugee or asylee. So a refugee is someone that's determined to meet those elements who is physically outside of the country. So that's why you'll hear about like refugee camps in various places in the world. They've been designated by the United States or by the United Nations actually as refugees, and they'll be living in a camp, and they'll get a refugee card, and they can travel probably to any country in the world as that refugee and get resettled once they're in the United States. So they've made their case for persecution by the government or a group the government can't control based on one of the 5 reasons while they're outside the country. So they come in basically with a free pass. What we're seeing at the United States borders are asylum applicants. That is, people have yet to make their case that they've been persecuted and that they fit under the definition. And they're knocking at our door so that they can make that application once they're in the United States. And that's someone who's looking for asylum. So asylees have landed in the place that they want to be safe. And refugees are still outside the country waiting to get brought to the United States. So what's really sickening here with these expulsions is under international treaties that we've signed, including the United Nations Refugee Convention, is when someone knocks at our door without a visa, a travel document, as we say, we're supposed to say, are you afraid to go back before we put them on a plane? So that's the violation of international law that's happening. And you're not supposed to lock them up, but we've been locked, we'll say, okay, you're afraid? Come on in, put the handcuffs on, sit in the jail. If you can find a lawyer to help you, you can make your case. But these people don't know that definition I just gave, the 5 bases, the persecution. These people don't know that. They don't know what to say. Of course, a lot of them maybe do qualify, but they don't know how to articulate it. And they're hungry. So it's almost, the system's like built for them to lose. Now, so we violated international law. If they knock on our door, right, and say, I'm afraid. And actually, they don't have to say I'm afraid. The obligation is on the government officials to say, ask. Are you afraid?
Correct.
So it's affirmative. So there's all that. Now, what you have with these expulsions is something that Stephen Miller, the anti-immigrant advisor to President Trump, invented, basically pulled back from a historical statute. It's Title 42. You hear people talk about Title 42, Title 42. It's one of the sections of the United States Code, United States legal code, Title 42, and it's section 265, I believe. And you can just find the page, and it's a little paragraph. And it's been around since 1944, based on what I've been able to look up. And it basically just says if someone has a contagious and dangerous disease, the United States doesn't have to treat them in any special way. It doesn't have to give them that question, are you afraid? Because it's to protect the United States from plagues. So Stephen Miller, this guy, he dug up a lot of that kind of old stuff, and because they just were so evil and trying to find ways to crush this whole immigrant situation. And anyways, that's what's coming. It's really sad to see that Biden using something from one of Trump's biggest and ugliest tools. But that's it. So the United States will defend itself against accusations of human rights violations at the border by saying we did not have to ask them questions. We did not have to determine whether they were afraid to go back because they posed a risk. Now, which is complete BS, right? Well, where's the proof that any of these people had COVID? Where's the proof that any of them were sick? And it just.
And also, Tom, I've heard that last year when COVID just started, I believe March 2020, when Haiti had closed its border to the US.
Oh yeah.
The only flight that was going to Haiti were people being deported from the US, and the US did not test them for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So you had people going to Haiti when Haiti was actually closed to deport when they're coming from a country that had a lot of COVID cases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay.
It's crazy. I remember in March 2020, when I made my last trip to Haiti, when I got off the plane for the first time in my life, anywhere in the world, someone took my temperature at the Haitian airport. Meanwhile, when I flew back, nobody took my temperature.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
it's political. It's it's inconsistent. It's hypocritical. It's just sick stuff. And Haitians, like I said, are sort of like the laboratory mice that get used. Now, just imagine if Haiti had a strong government at this point. It would be very hard to expel them, because the strong government elected by the people freely in Haiti would have a mandate and would have power in the international community to say stop. Well, what do you got? You've got these bumbling, corrupt people down there that aren't really elected. So this is the time, right? Get the mice out of the cage and dump them back on Haiti, because there's no voice. Now, why isn't there a government in Haiti? That's a whole other question. And that comes back to the United States. Absolutely.
It's a two-pronged situation, unfortunately. Now, a question that I wanted to ask, a lot of people called me this week and said, okay, what can we do? How can we donate? How can we help the people? How can we feed the people? And I didn't know, because I'm like, normally detention centers, you're not even supposed to go around them. So I do know that there are some people, some attorneys, some Haitian attorneys and nursing association that have been able to help some people out. How can you help people in this situation? Because normally you're not supposed to, and you can't come around these people. So is there a way, if something like that should happen again, that we, the civilians, can help outside of making phone calls to your senators and things like that? Is there any humanitarian effort that you can do? I know some people also were, if you had family members, I was told that they would contact your family members and you'll be able to go with that family member. Is there any truth to that? Can you perhaps enlighten us?
I'm not too sure. I did read that certain people, if they did get, have a conversation with someone at the border, an official, if they could show that they had contacts in the United States and could verify it, they would be let in. But, I'm not sure. In terms of the camp, they basically fenced it off, at least the one in Del Rio, and you wouldn't have access. I think the government contracted with people to bring them food and clothing. But as far as I can tell, that camp is empty, or it's close to empty now. The 28 flights that have taken place have pretty much empty, as far as I can tell. There's great groups. My favorite longtime group for what they do for Haiti, and it's not charity in terms of food and education and healthcare, but it will link you to those places, is the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, IJDH. They just do incredibly brave human rights work in Haiti. It's an organization that has a base in Boston, but they have a big law office in Port-au-Prince called the Bureau des Avocats Internationaux. And that's headed by a Haitian attorney named Mario Joseph. So he's awesome. His staff is awesome. They do brave work. They brought the cholera case to the UN. They sued the UN in federal court, and really exposed what the UN did. That made the New York Times a few times about their effort. So I really think they're the best organization in the world fighting for Haiti and human rights. And if you were to contact them, again, it's IJDH. So it's ijdh.org. You'll get a lot of resources there, and they can point you to organizations that are doing the right thing. And, on another show, guys, we could talk about NGOs and all the charity that gets given to Haiti and how, in some ways, it's very troubling. So I think, and IJDH will say this, that it's a rights-based organization, but it absolutely IJ. I see a G on there on that little thing. It's IJ as in Joseph. IJ, Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. That it's rights based, and it's based on the fact that democracy must reign, and democracy is a government by the people and for the people that hears the masses of people, not the elites, and responds to them. And it's the belief of IJDH.org that if Haiti was allowed to have its own government, which I think it had about for 10 years before, when the United States isn't messing with it, that the government can take care of its own people and create a place where kids can go to school and jobs and folks can have good jobs, and the streets are paved and the police work and the courts work. So it's not going to be rescued by outsiders donating, clothes. That's what's been going on forever. And donating food. It's really going to be supporting democratic institutions in Haiti, which means really breaking up the system of the elites that are the puppeteers down in Haiti that have the direct connection to the powerful people in the United States. It's scary, big stuff. But it goes back to the Haitians paying for getting themselves free 200 years ago. And we've got to stop that sort of vengeful, fearful behavior that Black people are going to come and take over the world or something and ruin our country. I'm appalled that all this immigration stuff happens when it's all caused by the United States in the first place. So why we spend all this money on 28 flights in 1 week when we could have just helped to build democratic institutions and support free and fair elections in Haiti? That seems to be, it would have been a much more efficient use of money and political will than to create this ugly mark on the United States at the expense of poor Haitian people. But that's been the way forever.
I just want to take a moment because it's getting time for us to end the show and to ask just before we go, if perhaps there's someone who would like to call us live and either ask them a specific question regardless to something that he said today on the program, they can call 646-876-9923. The meeting ID is 839-4377-1854. And then there's a password with 218318. Tom, as we move forward, not only I want to make sure that you and I will definitely stay in touch. It's good to have an immigration lawyer as part of your team because we meet people every day with very difficult situations, and sometimes we don't really have a lawyer that we know or we trust that we can help them. So I want to say, those of you who are watching and who actually live or reside in Philadelphia, Tom Griffin is right here in Philly. So his information, once again, I'm going to put it in right here. It's right here. You can reach out to him directly, or you can reach out to the remedy, and we'll make sure that you get connected to Tom. Tom not only talk the talk, but he also walk the walks.
Thank you.
He took the first 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the show to tell you some of the projects and some of the things that he personally has been involved with and when it comes to Haiti. So not only he knows the situation, but he also know what works, what doesn't work. He's seen enough. And so I think I am delighted, I am grateful for you for being here today and not only enlightening us, but really remind us again that we are not alone. As much as I hate this when it comes to the skin issue. I'm speaking to a white man who not only cares about Haitian, but in reality cares about Black people. And so I don't think it's fair for us ever, for any group to assume, well, this group of people, this is the way they are. I always feel that you can't make that blank statement because there's always exception to the rule. And Tom, you are definitely one. Um, the Abhijit, he's probably listening online right now, but this guy's in India, and he gave us and showed us and taught us the tools on how we can actually have a show and allow people to call the show and be part of the program. Just to show you again that this is someone who's all the way in India, but helping Haitians to do better. So I'm reminded once again that we are all a family. We are the human race. And that's what I want to advocate. If there's anything we can walk away from this from today, is that we are a human race. And one of us, when one of us is being abused, all of us are being abused. When one of us is being taken advantage of, all of us are being taken advantage of. Therefore, it is up to those of us who have the power, those of us who know better, to stand in the gap to help those who may not have the voice at that particular time. I am so grateful for you, Tom. You will forever be a member of the Remedy team. If you ever need to come back and do a show for whatever the topic may be, this platform is yours and we will always welcome you. Pat?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Tom. Thank you so much. Whenever something happened in life or things around me, I ask myself, what can I learn from this? First, I want to say that for the Haitian population that's been going through this whole week, I just want to say I'm so sorry, and we are praying, we are hoping that even though you get to Haiti, that things will get better. But most importantly, again, I'm not going to say the U.S. Is bad or the United Nations. At the end of the day, they have allowed people to come in, and to that I'm thankful. To me, most importantly, I think Tom, you mentioned it, is we need to do better. My leaders in Haiti needs to do better. That's what I get from this. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. The truth of the matter is, can we really call Haiti a nation? Can we truly call it an independent country? We go around, we put our flag up, we go around being very proud people when people cannot live in the country. We need to be better. We are shameful. We walk around with our heads down nowadays because we're tired. We need to do better. This, to me, is what I get from this week. Haiti has to do better. The leaders of the country of Haiti need to do better. When you have a broken leg, they put a cast on it. Eventually, they remove the cast so then you can walk okay. The U.S., the United Nations, should be our cast. They shouldn't be the way we work permanently.
All right.
I think Tom said it greatly in that it's been humanitarian effort. And the ambassador of Haiti was on CNN the other day, and he said, at this point, we need to stop the humanitarian effort. They need to help us with security so that eventually Haiti can have jobs and education and stuff like that. No more caste. Yes, at this point, we need help. We need help to get the security of Haiti in order. We need some help. But once we get the help, the leaders of Haiti need to do something. We will forever be in the news as if we were the worst nightmare ever. And I'm tired of it. That's just the bottom line. We can't hold U.S. responsible for us. We are Haitians. We have a country. We have leaders, so-called leaders. Just tired of it. Do your part. That's that. Do your part. If you don't know how to do it, mimic a country that's done it well.
Or step down. Allow the people who are educated to get the job done.
Walk away.
Correct.
Just enough. We cannot hold other countries responsible for us. Enough is enough. Then you know what? Allow yourself to get taken over. Figure it out. It needs to be done. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. That's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. Tom, any final words as we close?
No, thanks for this opportunity. I really think one of the biggest parts of change in the world and spreading of human rights and respect for human rights is knowledge. Get people out, getting you guys on the remedy, Patty and Mondi, just even putting in this effort. I know it's a hassle. I mean, right? Something else to do. Y'all have other things to do, but to give back to your people and to spread the word about what's really going on. I mean, the U.S. government does not do a great job about saying all the things that are going on. It gives us very precise message that it wants to portray. But it's up to the real people on the ground and good journalists and good lawyers to speak up and know all the thing that makes all these decisions tick. And once you know, then you can be an agent for change too and speak out and spread the word. So it's great.
And if you're undocumented, if you're also undocumented, don't be afraid. That's another thing. We're afraid. Don't be afraid. If you're undocumented, you've been in this country, there's the TPS, you don't know who to talk to, reach out. We've heard
the number down here.
Yeah, we've heard stories. Sometimes there are Haitians that have been in the country for 20 years and still undocumented. Don't do that to yourself.
No.
Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
No, there is. I mean, despite all beating up on Haitians in Del Rio, the United States at the same time has given temporary protected status to people who don't have documents, came in the country without documents, landed on the beach in Miami, overstayed their visas, whatever it is. It's like, you guys are okay. Just fill out this form. And it can lead to so many things, and including citizenship if you just keep aware of how it all works. But don't pass up this opportunity. It's something.
Amen. Amen. To that, I want to end with a quote from Mary Eves. She said, I cannot say this enough. Singapore was in the same place decades ago, and they rebuilt, and now it is one of the best nations. So what she's saying is it is now our time to rebuild. With that, I want to say thank you once again to each and every one of you, to all of you who are watching the show, Angie, Mary Eves, and Nancy Monestein, and Jason Bourne and Markel, and those of you who didn't participate in the chat room and who was listening on the Zoom line. We want to say thank you again for being part of the remedy. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you, and may you continue to fight. Okay, this is one of those things that we cannot just give it up. We have to continue to fight for this little country called Haiti, because those of us who know this country, it was once upon a time Haiti was called the pearl of the islands, and there was a reason for that. Okay, so let's continue to fight this good fight. I always say being a Christian is not about just praying to God and ask God to come and intervene. God is looking at you. He's saying you have the power to do something about it. So with this, again, Tom, we thank you. We appreciate you, Pat, as always. Thank you for being part of the remedy. I love you all. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you well. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.